Last week, I have slightly complicated problems health-wise. So it's slightly kind of dragging throughout the weeks in a way. And I have to balik kampung this week. On Friday. To have certain things done. I just got back today, in fact. Actually, I reached KL at nearly 5-ish PM today. Then from TBS, Tasik Bandar Selatan, I just quickly come to KL Central by train, carrying all the books that I have. So then I'll just wait till nearly Maghrib and everything. Then I come here, in a way, by Rasi to Rasi Gombak, then Dini pick me up. Yeah. No, it's not there. So I was pointing fingers to my toes. So that's the first. I mean, I'm really sorry that I couldn't make it last week. I hope that I'm not sure whether it's going to disappoint you or not, because I'm guessing that it's okay, no class, it's good for me. Then I'm just going to relax and enjoy yourself in your room. But I promise that, because we haven't covered Ricardo till the end, so I have to actually I promised the organizers I'm going to do a video soon. Not a graphic video, no. You don't expect that much from me. I'm gonna do a video on a bit of Ricardo and maybe a bit of Marx as well at the same time. Try to compare what things that I think we can compare between Ricardo and Marx. But that will come a bit later in a way. So that's why I think we just skip the Ricardo part, the second part of the slides, the one that we left off last time, and jump to Marx if you like. Because I think, yeah, this is, by the way, this organizer, this is the 7th class. Am I not mistaken? How many classes are we going to have more? I think, are we going to do this till the end of the year maybe? No, I'm just kidding. I guess it's 7th class if I'm not mistaken, so there should be another 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 4 classes more, including this one, I think. Yeah? So, the 7th. So the plan is, this is my plan for the next 3 or 4 classes that we have. So we're going to start Marx today. We're going to start with Marx today in a way. So Marx, I would assume, will be divided into 3 sessions if you like. So the first session will be looking at the labor theory and exploitations, which is today, I think. The second session, hopefully next week, we can do about the crisis of capitalism. So here we'll be looking at first the falling rate of profit, and the other one is overproduction problems. So these are the few things that Marx predict will be the crisis of capitalism. And we also be looking at, we'll also be dissecting a book by David Harvey, 17 Contradictions of Capital. So that will be next week's sessions, I know. And on the third class, we'll be looking at the criticism toward Marx. Okay, this is very important in a way, because without the criticisms, will be very dogmatic. Maybe you'll be like, fan-dealing with Marx, but not knowing that there are very few core problems with Marx and something that we can actually benefit, something we can actually learn from, and maybe develop from there. So on the third sessions of Marx series, if you like, we'll be looking at the criticism. There are criticism from the Austrian School of Economics. In fact, if you look at YouTube, I think they have a 5 lecture on Marx. The title is The Marx That You Didn't Know, something like that. So from the very superficial kind of appearances, you'll see that it's as if it's a class about Marx. But throughout the 5 classes, it's basically a class bashing Marx, which is good for you to learn their perspective on what Marx did wrong according to them. And we'll be looking at as well as the Keynesian attacks on Marx, and what are the problems here and there. Because again, the criticism towards Marx somehow actually signifies a larger picture, in the sense that they criticize from the perspective of modern economics, that's one, and their criticism of Marx is actually a kind of a symbol that they criticize the whole neoclassical economics project. No, the classical economics project, sorry. So Marx was like one of the the core figures at the front. So attacking Marx means attacking the whole classical economics, which includes Ricardo, which also includes Adam Smith, in a way. Because again, those two scholars that we have seen before in the previous lectures, those somehow evolved their economic theory based on the labor theory, based on labor concepts, based on focusing on labor as one of the central concepts in economy. So they rejected that in a way, for a couple of reasons. Okay, we're going to start off. I'm not going to okay. For this sessions, I'm going to skip the biography. Why? Because at the end of after 1 hour-ish a bit, we're going to finish our classes by looking at one play. Again, I'm sure you want to watch a video or something. Again, 2 hours class are never productive. So we're going to stop in the middle of the classes, and then after we've done with hopefully you reach the target. And then we're going to actually, I'm going to show you a play by, they call it Marx and Soho. So the whole play was basically about Marx's life that you never know, in a way. So because Marx, in the end, I mean, at least in the modern age that we have today, if you imagine the figure of Marx, you imagine the long bearded man with, it's looking at you like he wanted to kill you in a way. And he was being somehow propagandized as somehow brutal figures, radical, wanted to kill everyone in a way. So that particular play was based on historical evidences, and he was the play was trying to show how Marx as a man, I mean, he's as normal as we are. He have a family, he have a love story which is very interesting to see, and he have a kids, he have a tragedy, he live in poverty, and all those things that I think is quite relevant to understand how Marx come up with the theory, at least from the historical perspective. Okay, because the thing about Marx, I'm going to base the slides on Das Kapital. Obviously, the works are always in progress. Das Kapital is actually a project, the first project that he had in mind. He had almost 8 volumes that he wanted to achieve at the end of his life. He mentioned this in, I think, in Grundrisse. He mentioned that he said that he had somehow 8 kind of a big topics that he wanted to cover. So the first volume covered the first topics. It published after 10 years of research and working out with all the empirical evidences and theory. Then he died before he actually published the second volume. The Capital Volume 2 and 3 was later edited by Engels. So another 6 volumes are missing. So Marx Capitals, the Capitals project is actually an unfinished project. So if you look at the title of the books, Capital, unlike the other thinkers that we've learned before, like Ricardo and Adam Smith, it's actually a capital, a critique of political economy. So the words critique are there. Why? Unlike Ricardo and also Adam Smith, they were proposing something. They were proposing how economy should work. They were suggesting this is the best way to work. You have to focus on this and that. You have to somehow restrict the state interventions. But Marx was never suggesting anything. What he did was rather look at all the texts, all the classical texts of the thinkers before him, and apply the certain critiques. So he's working in a very negative terms. Like, I'm here writing about capital to somehow deconstruct what is capitalism, what is capital, and how it works, and what are the problems. So he's never actually proposing a new model. There's no such thing as a Marxian model of economy, as in what are the best way to run the country. Of course, people actually, the later Marxists will actually evolve in somehow coming out with the state-centered economics in a way, where you have the Soviets and everything. That was later kind of a debate that actually originated from the idea that Marx wanted a new model, which are based on a commune kind of spirit. That is that properties belong to almost everyone. In a way. Again, we have discussed about this about properties, right? They were not saying that there's no such thing as a private ownerships or something like that. I think he was talking more of there are things should be publicized, should be a public ownerships, and there must be a certain way to manage it in a public sense. Okay, let's look at the slides now. That's basically the introduction part of the sessions. So, I mean, Marx began his analysis from a stage or a condition or a historical imagination that he has is that he's trying to imagine a society where there's a simple commodity production and exchange, where in the language of Adam Smith, these are the basic, early and root state of society. This is a very simple society. That is, in this particular simple society, there are four things, in a way, you can extract from the society. There's a division of labor in a sense where somebody produces this, I produce this, you produce something else, then we trade. So there's a kind of a division of labor there. And you are direct producers. You're not working under anybody. You are basically working for yourself. You are the laborers, and you also produce your own goods, and then you want to trade it with someone else. It's a simple society. And then production by unassisted labor, in a sense, you're not being somehow, there's systems of working committees that somehow produce the particular goods. And it's a direct barter. There's no money yet that actually involved in somehow allowing the transactions. So he started off with this particular kind of society to look at what are the abstract concepts that we can learn and then complicates later in complicated economy. So then, okay, in this particular economy, the basic thing that we have is commodity. That's, I think we've learned so far a lot about commodity. And the definition of commodity is this: an exchange product labor. It's something, it's a product of labor, it's a thing that's under the markets. This is the most important part. That it's only become a commodity. It's only become a commodity when it enters the market. Or that is to say, it's become a commodity when it's being exchanged to other commodities. So if you grow a chilies at the backyard of your house and you consume it to yourself, it's not a commodity. It's basically for yourself. It's a good, it's a thing, it's a food. But once it enters the market, it's become a commodity. So that's a commodity. And our commodity have two things. This is again a repetition of Adam Smith. They are use value and exchange value. Use value is something that's being used, it satisfies human needs of whatever kind, and the nature of these needs, whatever they arise, for example, from the stomach or from the imagination, makes no difference. So what he was trying to emphasize here is that he doesn't really care about the utility of the goods. We're not trying to examine, okay, these goods use this, the use value of this good is this, and this product X is that. He was trying to abstract this. Okay, every goods have use value, and let's just leave it at that particular level. Use value again is quite simple to understand. So, okay, this is the last one. Important qualifications. Marx's utility or usefulness is said to be conditioned by the physical properties of the commodity and has no existence apart from the latter. That is to say that the use value of the goods, good X, good Y, good Z, comes from the physical nature of the goods. So, a pencil is a pencil, the function of the pencil based on the physical nature of the pencil itself, in a way. So, we try to understand the use value by looking at the physical nature of the goods itself, in a way. So that's quite simple kind of understanding. There's no clicker. So, okay, commodity. So, there's two things. So, commodity have, I'm just going to write it down here, some of the C, use value, exchange value. So this, bear in mind this, in any commodities, once you mention this as a commodity, you must try to examine these two particular characteristics. And we'll see the problems why later. So what is exchange value? Exchange value appears, first of all, as a quantitative relation, the proportion on which use values of one kind exchange for use values of another. So exchange value, okay, this is going back to the setting of capital. When he was, the purpose of capital is to criticize the tax, the classical tax. So what he did at the very beginning of the Capital Volume 1 is try to summarize back, try to reconstruct back how does classical economics before him understand economy. So according to him, okay, there's exchange value. So things should be exchanged. One use value will be exchanged to another use value. But the problem is, he said, okay, value exchange ratio of particular commodities must be based on one particular standards. If I like to exchange something, like for example a pen with your books, how many ratios and all those things, there must be certain standards. this again is being discussed. It's not something that Marx discovered out of nowhere. He was trying to play a rhetorical gesture by trying to unfold it back. Let's understand it from the basic and see the problems, where the problems lies. So he began saying, there must be exchange value and there must be a certain standards for the comparison to works. So he said that there must be this common element of which they represent a greater or less quantity of the goods. In a way, what I have between pen and pencils, or pen and books, for instance, is for them to actually exchange, there must be a certain standard, equal, common elements that we can use to compare. How much pen for the books? So they use common elements. For example, C1 and 2C, for instance, what are the common elements? So he tried to examine first, one by one. Is it use value, he said. He was playing a very rhetorical question. Is it use value? Again, he said no, it couldn't be use value. Because use value have different functions. Pens have different functions, books have different functions. So how does that can actually explain why books is equal to maybe 5 pens? It couldn't be understood from that particular angle, he said. So because again, use value is different and it's hard to actually compare those. There's no such thing as a quality comparisons. That because books are somehow higher valuable in a way than pens, so that hence why there's a 5 pens to one book, if you like. Again, there's a criticism there from data economists who said that actually we can't just rely on demand and supply. But again, he has a certain reply to that. So he disregarded the use of the value of commodities. Then he said, what's left now is labor, because he couldn't think of anything else. I mean, there are a lot of things that he gave an example, but then he negated back. He said this, but then no, this is not the case. He gave another example, but then he said this is not the case. At the end of it, he said maybe the common elements, the things that we compare between two different goods, are the labors. But again, what kind of labors? What are the things that we looked at when he mentioned labors? So then he said again, this is a very asking yourself kind of a question, kind of a pros, if you like. So again, he asked himself, so what kind of labor? What are we looking at here? So he gave 2 examples. There are qualitatively aspect of the labor. There's a quality part of the labor, and there's a quantitative part of the labor, if you like. So qualitatively is basically a concrete useful labor. That is to see the nature of the labor process itself, the nature of the work itself. If you are producing pencil, you need to, if you are producing, for example, agriculture stuff, you have to what are the things that you use? There's a certain activities that you do that are peculiar with that particular production process. If you are drawing, you have the kind of work that you do is basically drawing. It's a certain activities, a certain style and skills. And if you are doing some other works, some other productions, you are basically applying a different set of skills, a set of works to produce that particular goods. So that's a quality part. And he said, okay, maybe this couldn't be the case. We couldn't be looking at this quality, because again, qualities differs, and you don't know how to measure. There's no ontological value of what is actually a good quality and bad quality, according to him. So it's not the concrete useful labor, which is a labor considered in terms of the specific laboring activity performed the creation of a particular product. So what's left now, according to him, is this. This cannot be the common element. So the only remaining candidate for the common element is, according to Marx, is abstract labor. No, he kind of put it in that sense. Common now, we've looked at everything now, and the last one standing is this, the abstract labor. Again, this is not something new. The thing is, he tends to somehow portray it as if it's something new, as if it's not actually being discussed before, but this is something that's already being discussed before him. Not being discussed, being mentioned before him, but never being developed. So he's trying to tease that out by saying, okay, you're actually assuming this. Ricardo, you know what? You're assuming, when you mentioned about the labor theory, the pure labor theory of value, the amount of labor expended in the production process and blah, 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 you say you're actually assuming not a typical labor that you see on a daily basis. You're imagining what you call as abstract labor. What is abstract labor? And he come up with a question, what is abstract labor? So, labor considered in abstractions from its concrete useful functions something that is common to all. Okay, this is the quote. It's a productive expenditure of human brains, muscle, nerve, hands, and everything. So this is the conclusions of it in a way. It's an unskilled labor. So the abstract labor is a labor, is an imaginative labor. He's trying to imagine a labor where he is unskilled. So the only things that he do when he commit the labor, he engage in a labor process, is a simple activities that requires muscle movements and a bit of brain activities and stuff like that. So it's measured in a simple average labor that's processed in his bodily organism by every ordinary man. This is a super unskilled labor. Anybody can do it. And on the average, without being developed in any special way. There's no training, there's no education. This is a labor that you do if you are unskilled. This is a very basic unskilled labor. So this should be the standard for us to measure how many hours of labor to produce pencil and books. Because this again is the basic that everyone can do, everyone can have, and everyone actually possess if you like. So he was looking at a simple average labor, which again I simplified here as SAL. Just put that in mind when you look at the slide. SAL means simple average labor. But again, how do we calculate simple average labor? He always plays with this kind of question. So now we think that, okay, we have to imagine an abstract labor which is very basic, very simple. But again, people's are more complex, isn't it? I mean, there are no certain standards, certain guidelines. What are the simple abstract labor, simple average labor that we can look at, put on the paper, put on the maps, so we can actually compare the prices and everything. So, so some Marxists actually suggested, some Marxist economists, which I disagree in many ways, that what he meant by abstract labor is looking at the labor of the worst paid wage laborers in a given society. So he assumed, okay, we can't really think of how to find this abstract labor. It's only imaginations. He never mentioned clearly what he meant. But so the later Marxist economists suggested, okay, we can actually somehow quantify this by looking at the worst paid wage labor at the particular society. So if that's the worst paid is maybe £2 per hour, that's the basic, that's the standard for us to measure the more complicated labors later. And so this is basically I would disagree with this in a way. I think we can't really quantify it. And it's a good thing because I think it's a problem with economy, especially the mathematical ones. They wanted to quantify this so they can actually see the equivalence part. The later economics, especially the post-heterodox economists, if you like, one of them is Steve Keen. I'm sure some of you might know Steve Keen. Familiar, Steve Keen? The debunking economics, yes. That's the name. I'll put the name here. Steve Keen. On YouTube, we have a series of classes on non-equilibrium economics. That's something that he's trying to propose. That actually this kind of approach to always revolve around equilibrium point is actually useless. Economy functions in a non-equilibrium state. So his book is Debunking Economics, I think. He's not a Marxist, actually. He criticized Marxists. There's one paper that he wrote, The Marxian of Post-Keynes, or something like that, which he argued that the emphasis on libertarian value is actually quite ridiculous. You can't really look at that anymore, which I slightly tend to agree. But something from us that we can learn is the process of abstractions. So that's the first one. The second one is by looking at the contradiction that's happening in economics itself, if you like. So, why I disagree with this particular quantifying methods? Try to quantify what the abstract labor, how much is it, how many ringgit is the abstract labor per hour. I think it's a ridiculous approach because I think it should be leave as an abstract. Because again, how economy works and how society works, that we don't actually have a certain quantity to decide. We just need to imagine it. That is to say that how ideology works, for instance, is based on, this is again the Zizek code. He said that how ideology works or functions by assuming that somebody believes it. For example, you believe, okay, for example, money is a very good example of it. if you are an economist who studied money, you know that the money doesn't actually have any value. It's just people. But because everyone's believe it, you said to yourself, I can't do anything about it, so I behave the way everyone else behaves. But again, everyone thinks the same thing. The other people think the same thing. They say, oh, maybe because of the rest are actually doing it, I'm just going to follow suit. So even though they don't believe it, but they think the others believe it, it functions. The money seems to have a function in the end. So the same thing with this particular kind of angle. Even though it's not being, there's no quantity of abstract labor that we have in mind, it's just being assumed that when we are actually engaged in a transaction process, try to actually engage in the transaction process, try to sell something, we imagine it's actually the value of the goods is based on certain amount of labors. And that labors are being rated, are being somehow quantified with an imagination of a certain abstract labors. This is a very social thing. It could differ in, and again, it's later that Marx explained that what he meant by labor is a socially necessary labor time, which is again, there's no exact value of what amounts to 1 hour of labor. It's basically social. It depends on the society. And we don't realize it, we just follow suits, whatever that's given in the society itself. Okay? So, anyway, at least for me, I mean, of course, there are Marxists who actually did think that we should quantify this. Andrew Kleeman is one of them. I'll just put the name here. Andrew Kleeman. He wrote a book on the failure of the capitalist reproduction or something like that. So, okay, this abstract labor is basically the value. And their value is actually the one that somehow determines the exchange value between one good X, and good Y. So, he asked again somehow rhetorical questions. Does the abstract labor determine the whole value? He said, not really. There's a certain condition that have to be met. First, because again, he reminds us that the exchange value only materialize, the value of the goods, when he mentioned the value of the goods, only materialize when they are in exchange with other goods. So they have to engage in certain kind of social relations here. Because again, if you are producing a certain amount of labor, abstract labor is banyak mana pun, it's not going to give you any values unless you somehow engage with other values or other goods. Then only the values are being materialized. These are some of the questions that he's trying to answer later. So the solution is this. So the labor expended must be equal to socially necessary labor time. So what is a socially necessary labor time? So he explained here. Socially necessary labor time is the labor time required to produce any use value under the conditions of normal for a given society and with the average degree of skills and intensity of labor per unit at a time. Okay, some would disregard this as not important. Why he did add socially necessary labor time? Anybody can tell me why? Because again, this is basically Ricardo, isn't it? The value of things are basically depending on the labor time to produce the particular good. That's Ricardo. But why he add socially necessary labor time? Why he add the word socially? Anybody can guess? Because the word itself, the socially necessary labor time, actually changed the whole thing. The whole thing about Ricardo. Just think that for a moment, I'll take a drink. Sorry, I'm a bit tired actually. Traveling 5 hours in the bus. I don't drive the bus. The bus sucks, and it's a transnational bus. So don't go there. It's a bad experience. Okay, when he mentioned social necessary labor time, again he rejected Adam Smith. Why? Because Adam Smith suggests that they are a standard value of labor. That is that it's actually equal to the amount of sacrifices for free time, leisure. So 1 hour of labor, 1 hour of working at something, at a certain company, is cost, for example, 2 ringgit. That 2 ringgit is actually paying for what? It's paying for this leisure time, and free time, leisure time, blah blah blah, you know, for you to do something else. And that particular thing is actually fixed, according to Adam Smith. It have a fixed value. Everyone should have the same value of leisure time and free time, if you like. So the free time costs 2 ringgits, according to Adam Smith. It should be like that forever, because leisure time, free time is something that ontologically have value. Ricardo never explained about that in a way. But what Marx tried to introduce here, he said, this is ridiculous. What's actually the labor time is basically depending on the social relations. This is where he is trying to introduce the concept of totality. Anybody familiar with totality? Okay. Totality is this. Erase that for a while. Okay, this is not a Illuminati or something like that, no? I'm not a satanic advocate or whatever it is, no. I'm actually quite a strong supporter of God, God path, in a way. But okay, what I'm trying to portray totality here. So what he meant by totality is that everything exists in certain kind of social relations that connects to each other. That is to say that one dot is meaningless without any dots, without other dots connected to each other, in a way. So, for example, money. Money is useless when there's no such thing as, markets and transactions. Transaction is useless when there's no money. Money is actually somehow related to, the goods and the goods as well. So everything is somehow interrelated in a way that they are supporting each other's and give meanings to each other's. I'm tempted to say it's like a Tao thing. You know, have you imagined this is some of the Kung Fu films. Okay, I just want to show you what the Kung Fu films. There's a water actually like flowing, you know, circulating this particular shape, right? Have you ever seen that? Yeah. You should watch more Kung Fu films, actually.
Kung Fu bands.
Sorry?
Kung Fu band.
Kung Fu Panda, no, you won't see this, but I watched the latest one, it's quite nice, but okay. At this particular instances, what makes the whole thing's whole is basically the water that flows in those directions. There's no starting points here, that's what he was trying to emphasize. There's no one thing that caused another. They might be it in a way, at first instances, during the production process, but once it's established, everything is interdependent with each other. It's in a way, it's a thing that somehow can only be understood in a totality. So money can only be understood when you understand workers, labours, capital relations, and those things. And capital relations as well can only be understood when you understand money. So it's like watching two things moving at the same time. Which again, if you look at it's how machine works. Machines actually, even machine based on battery, for instances. The battery have their own mechanism that supports the other things, and that particular mechanism supports the battery itself. At least you imagine this totality in the sense that everything is connected. That's the basic part of it. So the labor time, especially depending on the relations that exist in that particular economy. So what he was suggesting, and that's quite revolutionary is that everything is social relations, one, and there is no such thing as value. Again, he was saying, okay, there's a value, but again, there's no such thing as value, the real value. Because those values are somehow something constructed in the social relation that exists in that particular society. Okay? So this is the key points, because from here, if everything is relations, we can imagine a new relation, which is at the end of that. Some of the works, I think, is a capital 2. In these particular instances, if you have everything is a relation. Economics is basically a kind of a relationship between this particular concept and that particular concept, so this particular goods and this particular goods, or me and the machine, for instance, have their own relations. That relation is something that is intangible. You can't touch it, but you can change it. Hence, there's a 1,000 possibilities. So here you can't say, okay, communism is against nature. He said there's no such thing as nature. What you think as nature is because you are living in these particular social relations that are given to you, and you think that's normal. But really, everything is a social relations, and if something happened, and then there's a revolution occur, I don't know what happened, but then there's new social relations occur, that will be your fitrah for you in a way, or this is the natural state for you in a way. That's the part where he mentions social labor time. And that's the first condition. The second condition is that the quantity supply must be equal to the social needs. That is, it's basically demand and supply kind of thing. So, for the value to materialize, for the goods to be exchanged in the exact value, depending on the amount of laborers involved in the production process. For example, this pencil is equal to 5. This pen is equal to 5 pencils. For that to materialize, it must meet the social needs. That is a demand and supply labor. Demand and supply diagrams, if you like. So okay, then he speaks about the law of value. What is the time now? The law of value. So what he was trying to see here, that commodities will tend to realize a value equal to the social necessary labor time required for their production process. So once the commodities enter the market, in a very long run, there are certain forces that will actually put the value of the good itself equal to the social necessary labor time. That is, the price of the goods will be somehow gravitates towards this equilibrium price, which are against depending on social necessary labor time. For example, the price of the pencil is 3 ringgit. Okay, so the value of the real value of the pen is 5 ringgit, but then somebody sold it at 3 ringgit in a way. So the forces of the market, if you like, will actually somehow shift that particular price to the 5 ringgit part. So what are the 5 ringgit? It's actually equal to the socially necessary labor time. That's what he was trying to say.